everybody. I'm Suzanne with Suzanne Kroll Photography. I'm a maternity, newborn, and family photographer located in Northern Illinois, and I'm also an admin here at the SNAP Society. This week's Tip Me Tuesday is all about safety tips to help you prepare for your newborn sessions. The first tip is all about you and all of the things that you can do yourself to make sure that the baby is nice and safe and that your session runs smoothly. The first thing that I always do when starting a newborn session is I make sure that my hair is pulled back, whether that's in a ponytail or in a headband, something that keeps all of your hair away from your face and better yet, away from baby. Little fingers can get stuck up in your hair and you wouldn't want them to pull and end up with little strands on their fingers or even up on their face. So I always pull my hair back and get it out of the way. The second thing is clean hands. Always make sure that you wash your hands before handling baby. Mom and dad are trusting that you are going to keep their little ones safe and you don't want any germs on your hands. Not only are germs important to get rid of, but you also want to make sure that your fingernails are cut short and that they're free of any nicks that could scratch baby. When I do my sessions, I actually shoot with a pair of gloves. Seems a little strange, but if I'm wearing gloves, it serves two purposes. Number one, it makes sure that I'm always touching baby with fingers that are free of nicks that could cut their skin, just in case I have a small spot on a fingernail that could scratch. It also helps because my hands are cold all of the time, and baby's skin are so sensitive. And so then if I have gloves on my hands, they're not going to feel that super cold feeling just from my hands when I handle them. It helps them to stay calm and soothed, and I just really like working with them. Thirdly, you want to make sure that you're healthy for the session. Never ever conduct a session when you have a cold or aren't feeling 100%. Think about when you had your baby, if you're a mom or dad, and you wouldn't want anyone handling your brand new little baby by anyone who has germs or who is contagious in any way. So just don't even take a chance. If you're not feeling well, reschedule. A day or two won't make a big difference. The next way that you can prepare safely for a session is the room. I like to keep the room around 80 degrees. If you're going to someone's house, a client's house, I ask them to go ahead and crank up the heat about 30 minutes before I'm going to arrive. Babies cannot regulate their own temperature in the first few weeks of life, so it's up to us to make sure that their bodies are at the right temperature and that they are cozy and safe. Number two is all about blankets. Our posing blankets, whether you use a beanbag or whether you use something else to pose baby, make sure that your blankets are nice and tight. You never want to have a baby whose face is buried down into a blanket that is bunched up, because we don't want to cut off any part of their airway. And let me show you an example of a nice tight backdrop. This is an example of my newborn setup. I use the newborn cloud system, and as you can see, all of the blankets have been pulled nice and tight to the edges so that there's no bunching where I'll be laying baby. Thirdly, you always want to make sure that you start out with a tidy space. Things can get really chaotic and super messy during a newborn session when you're changing wraps, you're changing hats and headbands and props, but you want to start the session nice and tidy. That includes any lighting cords, any sort of props. Make sure that they're out of the way to avoid tripping, not only by you, but also by parents who are coming over for parent shots. You don't want to have any sort of safety issues lying around the room as you're working with baby. And lastly, the next tip is all about baby. I brought my doll along because I want you to remember to always practice poses on a doll before you practice on an actual baby. All of those poses on Pinterest, all of those cute little things that you see online look so dreamy, and I think we in the photography industry always have a need to replicate and do what other photographers are doing, but please make sure that you are proficient in that pose before you try it on an actual baby. Look for things in a doll with like moving arms, moving legs, moldable, things that you can do to move them around to practice wrapping and to practice posing. There are tons of things, dolls on the market that you can use to actually help you to learn newborn posing, but I just encourage you to get any sort of a doll and practice. It could even be a stuffed animal, but something just to practice posing before you work with an actual baby. Secondly, watch for cues from baby. Look for things like discoloration in the fingers. Look for arms that seem to be pinched. Babies' pigment will change colors very quickly if their circulation is being cut off. So watch for things that are not perfectly pink, whether on their fingers or their toes, and make sure that they're not being pinched or that a leg is not being smushed in any way. Thirdly, never ever force a baby into a pose. There are some poses that babies just don't like. And as you're moving through your workflow, if you come across a pose and baby just seems uncomfortable and fussy and can't quite settle, just move on. Sometimes babies don't want to be molded and bent in certain positions, and that's okay. It's not worth risking the baby's safety just to get the perfect shot. And finally, the last tip I can give you is patience. It takes lots and lots of practice to work with newborns. I highly recommend choosing one pose that you're really excited about. Practice on a doll until you feel okay with it. Perhaps do a model call and see if you can perfect that one pose, and perfect that before moving on to another pose. Thanks so much for watching. Good luck on your next newborn session. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the forum. Bye-bye.